Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is. It is 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning and time for Sales Logic. Mark and I were just in a meeting, looked down and went, Mark, it is 7:59. We got to jump on and do the podcast. So I am at my home in Asheville, North Carolina. Mark, you are on the road this week.
I'm on the road in Seattle, so it's dark 30. It's 5 a.m. Yeah, we had a meeting this morning at 4:30 Pacific time. That's how enthused we are. Yeah, we're sick. We're sick people.
All right, we got a great show for you today, so I'm going to hit the intro and let's get going. All right, it is 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning, time for Sales Logic. Mark, I know we got a great show on tap today, but I always like to share with the audience how they can get involved with the show. If you have a question, we feature a question every week here on the show. So just reach out to us at saleslogicpodcast.com. We cover a hot topic, we recommend a book, and because we want you to get return on investment, we leave you with a lightning round. And Mark, I want to mention, just because we're headed into fourth quarter here, hard to believe, that if you want to be a part of the Sales Logic Mastermind, just go to saleslogicpodcast.com, check it out there, and you too can blow your goals right out of the water. So Mark, what is on tap this week?
Hey, we're talking about why prospecting is so critical because again, hey, as we round up, come into the end of the year, you got to keep prospecting. So that's what we're going to talk about. We got a great question. In fact, why don't I go ahead and jump into the question? The question comes from Andrea in San Diego. She says, the leads I'm getting from my marketing department are pretty bad. Gee, that's a common issue. And I waste a lot of my time in follow-up. Hey, here's the deal. She leads an inbound sales team and she needs some input on how to guide the marketing department on how to get me better leads.
Yeah. Gosh, this is such a good question. I love the idea of guiding the marketing department to get you better leads. What I love about this is that you're taking ownership of it. You're not blaming the marketing department, because the truth is the marketing department needs you in order to get better leads. You need to clearly define that target market. Mark, I really want to have this discussion this morning because I've been having this battle this week with more than a few clients, in that everybody is my prospect. And that is such the wrong avenue to go down.
Yeah, that is so wrong. I mean, you can walk out your front door and I'm sure you see people on left and right on your street. I mean, you drive down the road, people, those are not your prospects. You've got to narrow it down. We've talked about ICP, ideal customer profile, but I'll tell you what, in today's marketplace, we have the ability to get even tighter than ever before. And I think this is where so many salespeople fall down. And the reason is because they're in a panic to fill their funnel. And you have to be very methodical about how you fill your funnel. Don't think you're going to fill it overnight. You and I have talked about this. You and I have strategies that are just very deliberate, and you just stay in the groove day in and day out. So I'll tell you what, Andrea, if you think marketing is going to turn it on a dime for you, don't. Here's the thing. Never rely on marketing to do all your lead generation for you. If you can't generate some of your own leads, you've got a serious problem. I mean, because again, don't you have people you can call? Don't you know who the ICP is? Don't you have customers that you can call for referrals? Don't you? Yes. Yeah. It's your job too, Andrea.
I also want to say, Andrea, too, you still have to qualify the lead once the marketing department sends it to you. Their job is to say, we went out and found people that fit this description. But just because they fit that description doesn't mean they're a quality lead. I'm going to repeat that. Just because they fit a description doesn't mean they are a quality lead. I'll give you a great example. We were talking about this last week. I had a client that's smack in my target market. She's a CEO. It's a financial institution. they're referred to me by another client, and in on paper that looks perfect. But when I got in there and started to talk to her, she doesn't really believe they need to make changes in their organization. Now, marketing can't figure that out from trying to find a lead for me, but it's through the conversation that I figure out if they qualify.
I think that's without a doubt. You still have the conversation, but this is where I think we have to qualify fast. And that does not mean you skip over stuff, but you qualify fast by really be prepared to ask them difficult questions, because you want to understand, does this person fit, or just a suspect? What I see happening, and Andrea, I have a feeling you probably have this happen, is that salespeople get desperate for leads. They get desperate for customers. They get desperate to fill the pipeline. So they wind up keeping things in their pipeline way too long. You have to earn the right to be in my pipeline. It's an honor to be in my pipeline. And salespeople, this is what you have to do. You have to be very judicious in being prepared to say, you're out of here. You're not in my pipeline, because you know what? You're not even a suspect. You are just a name.
Yeah, I love what Jack Hubbard, a sales guru, is joining us today. 2 great tools to use in sourcing great leads: Sales Navigator, especially with its new AI feature. Can't tell you enough. And then RelPro. Jack, I got to admit, I am not familiar with RelPro, so I got to go check that one out. Mark, do you know it?
No, I don't. But this brings up an interesting point. There are so many tools out there. And this is one of the key things that really want people to understand. Don't get caught up in thinking you got to check out every tool that's out there. Go with the Sales Navigator. I love the fact that Jack brought up Sales Nav. Now, Bryn has jumped in, and she's a LinkedIn expert. I love this. And here's the thing about Sales Navigator. It was good 2-3 years ago. It's still it's even better today. So that is a great lead generation tool. Stay tight with the tools that you use. Don't think you got to jump from tool to tool.
Yeah, I would also say, though, again, I love the fact that Bryn's jumped in here, because Bryn and Jack have teamed up and are delivering some unbelievable social selling opportunities, especially in the financial services space. But as far as marketing goes, even if marketing is giving you bad leads, number one, I would say, take ownership of that. Decide that it is your fault that marketing is giving you bad leads. Why do I say that? Is because if you can blame yourself, you can fix the problem, right? So you can go back to marketing. I love what Bryn is saying here. I believe the best thing marketing can do for sales is to interview each rep and create thought leadership that helps them build trust and credibility. Absolutely. But if marketing is not coming to you, Andrea, you go to marketing. You sit down with marketing and say, here's what I need. Here's what I'm looking for. How can we partner together?
And the bad leads that you perceive marketing is giving you is probably a direct result of the goals that they have. And what is this result of? Because their objectives were set up over here in marketing, and your objectives were set up over here in sales. This is why I love, Mary, what you're saying. You got to come together and build them out collectively. Now, let's back up to this whole marketing lead piece. You got to sit there and ask yourself this question. What is the scoring metrics that marketing is using to determine whether or not a lead comes over? One of the metrics that drives me crazy is the fact that, they downloaded an ebook, or they checked out a webinar. You know what? That doesn't mean jack squat to me. And that's a technical term, jack squat, because all that means is that they downloaded something. I've got to see a level of engagement. So I may give them 1 score on that, but they got to come back and jump in and grab a couple more things. Now, if they grab 2 or 3 things from my website or participate in 2 or 3 webinars, now I can begin to say that, okay, this fit, but I still got to put them through the rinse cycle to see whether or not they fit the ICP. Again, I'm not going to throw the name over to sales. So marketing, you have to do your work. But like you said, Mary, Andrea, you've got to get in front of marketing and help them understand who specifically is that ideal customer. you want to be going after.
Yeah, one of the limits of any marketing department is that they rarely, if ever, go on sales calls. Now, if you can get them to go on sales calls with you, great. But nobody understands what a qualified lead is better than a salesperson. And so one of the things that I tell my clients to do is I think on a quarterly basis, sales and marketing ought to have a meeting together. And you need to go through the leads and say, these were qualified. These were not qualified. This is why. And if you can help marketing understand why somebody didn't qualify, if it's within their scope of control, they can get better and better and better. I'll give you a great example. I had a client this past week that the leads that are coming through, they're paying a marketing company a lot of money, but the leads that are coming through for inbound are really weak. They're not good leads at all. Well, they're pretty much saying that they want a certain person in a certain age group, and the marketing company is just putting ads on Facebook. Well, my God, you can get anybody and their brother responding on Facebook. You've got to give the marketing department, the marketing company, the marketing agency, whomever you're using, as much information as you possibly can, demographics and psychographics, so they can get you a better lead. Even with that, if they give you 100 leads, it doesn't mean that 100 are going to be qualified.
That is so true. And see, so what you got to do is you got to say, okay, what are the questions that you're asking? What are the questions that you're asking? What I find happening is that so many times that sales team will take the inbound lead, will take the lead that marketing generated, and they immediately race to just trying to get an appointment. And if I can get an appointment with them, and then I can walk them through, because what they do is they wind up racing to the demo. And they fail to realize that just because this name came from marketing, you still have to go through the verification process, which means you've got to be sitting there and asking them the questions. We do ourselves in sales a disservice when we fail to ask qualifying questions prior to getting the meeting set up. Now, this runs counter to a lot of people. I get a lot of pushback on this, but here's why. Because what happens is you wind up setting up a meeting. Oh, hey, I see you check that. I'd love to have our AE, our account executives, our salespeople, whatever, get a 20-minute, 30-minute meeting on your calendar. Can we do this tomorrow at 10 o'clock? Yada, yada, yada. See, now what's happening is, guess what? That inbound salesperson, that BDR, that SDR, what are they doing? They're guilty of the same thing that marketing is guilty of. They're just taking this bad lead and putting a little bit of lipstick on the pig and sending it across the room. And guess what? It's still a pig, just with lipstick on it. Hello, you've got to qualify. If I can't uncover some sort of a premise for why this person would want to buy, I don't want to pass that name over, period. That runs counter to what a lot of BDR teams are attempting to do.
Yeah, I love what Jack is saying here. Marketing pros should also attend sales training and pipeline meetings from time to time. And Bryn, jumped in and said, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the more that marketing can understand sales and the more that sales can understand marketing, the better off you're going to be. But Mark, here's my question, and here's where I'm getting stuck with, I'm working at a high level with some sales teams. And then when I get into working with the individual sales professionals, I've got two right now that are really pushing back on this whole idea of ICP. And it's getting past this mental block. Like one of the sales professionals, she became a sales professional with the company after being somebody who didn't necessarily want to pay that much money for the product. She bought the product for the company, fell in love with the company, and now sells for the company. So she can't get past in her mind that she wouldn't have fit the ICP, yet she's a dedicated buyer now. When I'm working with her because she's not hitting her sales goals. She is spending way too much time chasing people that don't fit the ICP, but her mental block is because she didn't fit the ICP and became an advocate. So where is the mental block with salespeople? And I'm open to Bryn, I'm open to Jack, I'm open to, I love that you're here, but I'm going to mispronounce your name. Alato Kunbo. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm going to put your comment up here in a second. But I want anybody to weigh in. Why do we have so much trouble focusing? I call it selling from a place of power, in that every time I say yes to a prospect, I've said no to 5 other prospects. And I'm going to hit my sales goals the more I put myself in front of somebody who fits my ICP. Yet I see this as one of the biggest mental blocks. I'm going to say one more thing before I want you to jump in and answer this, Mark, is I think all the time about the comment that you say is that the best way to close a sale is to start the sale right. And starting the sale right is with the ICP. But where's the mental block and where's the struggle?
Well, the mental block becomes, we get hung up in terms of trying to line up the ICP. Remember, the ICP is built around the outcome that you create. This is what the ICP, the ICP is not built around just because they look like this. It's because the result they want looks like this. And that's a big difference, because this is why you have in an ICP, you may be selling into a couple of verticals, and in one vertical, it may be this title of person that you're dealing with, and in this vertical, it's a different title of person, but the outcome is the same. So that's what you got to look at. Focus on it. This is where I tell salespeople, one of the things, you never forget the outcomes. And what I mean by the outcome, what does the customer accomplish when they buy from you? Not what you sell them, not what they buy from you. And you want to keep that piece of paper handy. You want to keep that handy in terms of these are the outcomes that they are getting from you. And you look at that. And because again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to say right up front in that prospecting phase, in this lead qualification phase, is this prospect I'm talking to going to line up with one of these outcomes? And if they don't, just because they look like you, just because they have this IC, does not mean they're part of that. They're part of that world.
I'm curious, how much does the ICP need to be updated?
Well, the ICP, I think, needs to be updated probably semi-annually. Now, again, right now it's semi-annually because the economy is changing. I refuse to use the R word. I'll let you use the R word. But normally, it's not more than an annual process at best. Because again, once you know the outcome, it stays. What you need to be aware of is that if you change it too much, you're going to become a victim of shiny object. Yeah. And again, this gets people in trouble. Salespeople, we are victims of our own delusion. We are, because we go squirrel, 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 and we run from side to side. Yeah.
Oh, so well said, Bryn. We have been brainwashed into believing it's a numbers game. So the mental block is that spray and pray is effective, when in reality, targeted conversations on deeper level is a much better use of our time. And not only a better use of our time, Bryn, but it's a better use of the customer's time. I was trying to use this example with this client I'm really stuck with. And, and that is that, if you try to sell me a $200 bottle of wine, it is a complete waste of time and energy. Number one, I don't really drink, but number two, I would never spend that much money. Now, could you talk me into it? Absolutely. I get a little FOMO now and then, and you could try to talk me into it and say, if I serve this at a dinner party or something, but is that going to result in a deep return of me continually buying not only bottles, but cases of $200 bottles of wine? No, versus talking to our friend Mary Kelly, who loves wine, who would be willing to spend for wine. That's a damn good use of your time, because you're going to sell lifelong into that. So it's not only making more effective use of your time, but also making effective use of the of the customer's time.
Now, if I had a $500 putter, I was trying to sell you, would buy that in a heartbeat.
all day long. If you told me you could guarantee me it was going to sink putts. Yeah, it's about really knowing who the person is and a good use of the time, because selling something one time does not mean that somebody's fit your ICP. The idea is that if I focus on the right target, any customer that I have gone deep with, and is easy repeat sale, fits my ICP. And when you can do that, you not only build a long-term relationship, but let's go back to this $200 bottle of wine. If the salesperson tried to sell me on that, that's not a good use of their time. But if Mary Kelly is really happy with that, she would stand a better chance of selling me on it.
Okay, let's run with that further, because if you were to line up Mary Kelly with you have similar businesses, you
Yes.
achieve similar outcomes with your clients, you work with similar type. A lot of things line up. So you'd almost say that, wait a minute, you and Mary Kelly have the same ICP, but see, it's the outcome. This is what's so key.
It's so key.
When you have to be focused in on that outcome. And this is the disconnect that Andrea is having with marketing. This is the disconnect that too many marketing departments have, because they don't focus on the outcome, the result. And I really call this downstream. Downstream, what happens when the customer buys your product? How does it benefit them? That's where I focus my time. That's where I focus my effort. And if I can't get you there, I'm moving on someplace else.
Yeah, it's it's interesting, because you're so right. If you typically, what we give marketing to pull leads is age, is annual revenue of the business, even gender, things like that. And Mary Kelly and I line up perfectly. I mean, we look exactly the same until you get into our interests, until you get into our desires, until you get into what we value and what's important to us. And that's where you start to niche down. And that's why a salesperson really working with marketing and helping them really understand into the bones what's important, they can't really help you pull the qualified leads. Again, the biggest thing that I would say to Andrea, and that I will, is if you can make it your responsibility to help marketing understand how best to help you, and then still own at the end of the day, even if they give you 100 leads that fit that, not all 100 are going to qualify. Your job is to pick out the best ones.
Yeah, this is why one of the questions I always ask prospects, how is this going to help you achieve your objectives? How is this going to help you achieve? I want to understand that. And if they don't paint me a picture around that ideal outcome I'm looking for, then guess what? Have a nice day. I'm moving on. I'm going someplace else. But I have to be well, and this is where salespeople break down. We fail to ask the difficult questions until we really get into the demo phase, or almost after we wait way too long to get into that conversation, and then we wind up with that pipeline that is nothing more than a sewer pipe.
Yeah. Great point, Jack. That salespeople don't prospect more because they're in companies that require salespeople to do too many non-productive activities. I'll tell a little fib on myself, is that when I worked with Jack, I was required to do too many non-productive activities. What did I do? I prospected, and I didn't do my non-productive activities. What I find is the best salespeople, I don't care what the company requires them to do, they'll get smacked all day long because they didn't do the non-productive activities. But you can't stop them from prospecting and from selling. But if salespeople can have the excuse to do the non-productive activities, they'll take it all day long.
They'll take it.
No, go ahead.
I just got a call yesterday from a regional bank, and they want me to come in and do some stuff. And I was talking with them, and it's interesting, but banking, I mean, it's notorious. They can get caught up in doing everything else but prospecting. You were an anomaly. And that's why you were successful, because you were willing to go out there and prospect. But
and what I found is when I hired sales, one of my favorite things to do is to ask salespeople in an interview is, how do you balance the non-productive activities with the non-selling activities with the selling activities, and how do you maximize? And the only answer I'm looking for is, I don't do the non-selling activities, because unless you function that way, I'm not really interested. I just
Yeah.
figured out early that I was going to get in this much trouble for not having my documents done, but I would get this much reward for being the best salesperson out there. But listen, I want to answer this question: impact of AI and prospecting in present day market. I think it has a huge impact. Number one, it makes us. I'm using AI to do some early lead generation for me, from contacting a lot of lists and trying to figure out on these huge cold calls which people are really interested that I can dive deep into. So I feel like it increases our ability to make calls, and it allows me to be more effective as a salesperson and really spending my time and energy with people who are highly qualified.
The key there is that AI for you is an opening tool. It's not a finishing tool.
No,
And I've been using this a lot. Do not look to AI to finish the conversation, to finish the list. It's an opening tool. It exposes you to new areas. Now, this is the other risk with AI, is that it can also create shiny objects. It can,
Yeah.
So you got to be, and you use it in a very structured manner. See, so you do have a little bit of banking mentality, even though you didn't do your paperwork. So
yeah, you're absolutely. I have a lot of a lot of banking mentality, but I didn't do my paperwork.
Yeah.
If I could,
Hey.
I would get other people to do it. We got to move to the book. We got to move to the lightning
Yes.
round because we have 3 minutes left.
Yes, and the book. Who wrote this book?
I don't know, but it is sort of the guru of prospecting. If you want to know anything about prospecting, you have got to talk to Mark Hunter, because he not only wrote one book but multiple books and is the guru on prospecting. Mark, I am so sorry, I don't happen to have your book in front of me today. Do you?
Well, I'm on the road. Actually,
Yeah.
I should see if there's one in this office here. But but anyway, it's High Profit Prospecting is the book. And yeah, I wrote the book. And you know what? The scripts and so forth, it's still just as good as ever as when it first came out. And yeah, so read it. Call the author. Call me. Yeah, anyway. So anyway, hey, let's jump into the lightning round. You ready?
Oh, yes. So let's do it.
Oh, wait a minute. You know what? We should talk about the Sales Logic Mastermind, right?
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, if you, Natalie has just joined us. Natalie's a part of our mastermind, and it is all designed to help you not only meet your sales goals but exceed your sales goals. It's a powerful group of like-minded individuals focused on sales. Great content, great information, and we would love for you to be a part of it. Just go to saleslogicpodcast.com.
Great. Okay, you ready? Lightning round. Top 10 ways to prospect. Go.
Number one, I would say, clearly define that ICP. Before you ever start to prospect, know who you're looking for.
Number two, don't think about it. Do it. Pick up the phone and make the call, okay? Please.
Number three, network, network, network. If you put yourself around your prospects, you're going to do a great job of prospecting.
Number four, when you set your goals, remember, as much as you'd love to close sales, it's going to take activities. It's going to take activities. I look at it this way. It's like a scoreboard. You want to put points on the scoreboard, but in order to put points on the scoreboard, you got to run the plays on the field, on the court.
Yeah, set up a criteria for prospects that, as you get out there and you prospect, you're going to collect a lot of them. So you've got to decide which prospects to follow up with. So I set a criteria of 10, and in order for me to follow up, people have to meet at least 7 of that criteria.
Don't go into this alone. You got to go into this with a team. This is why we really encourage you to join the Sales Logic Mastermind, because you know what? Prospecting can be pretty lonely. You need somebody else out there to help hold you accountable, help pick you up, and help motivate you.
Don't be afraid to walk away from a prospect. Understand that saying yes to one prospect is saying no to other prospects.
Be prepared to ask the difficult question up front. Keeping a name in your pipeline is not a good way to build a pipeline. You want qualified people only.
If you want to prospect effectively, ask for referrals. Make sure that you're asking your circle of influence, as well as soon as you close a deal, ask for a referral for the next opportunity.
I'll share one more, you share one more, and we'll close it down. Schedule the time. Put the time on your calendar. If you don't block your calendar, guess what? You won't do it.
Yeah, I would say look into ways to both automate your prospecting opportunities, and then use your time to really follow up on those leads that qualify.
Great. Hey, what a great conversation today. We want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, would you consider telling a friend about our show? Because it's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. We will see you here next week. Thank you, Natalie. It is an amazing group in Sales Logic Mastermind. We've got Dave Sanderson here, who is also a member, who says that Mark is the master of prospecting because he loves it. And it's absolutely right. Thank you to the audience. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know what we would do without you. You are incredible. Check out saleslogicmastermind.com. Go to Sales Logic podcast.com.
SalesLogicPodcast.com.
Thank you. Yeah. Put your question in there and we'll feature you right here next week on Sales Logic. Until then, close a lot of deals. We'll see you next week. Bye.